Any thug can kill. I have to know I can trust you.
Well, I understand double O's have a very short life expectancy.
You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond.
Is this really what you want? Always alone?
We used to be able to get into a room with the enemy. Now they're just floating in the ether.
When our secret finds its way out, it'll be the death of you.
Oh my God.
Target enough people.
And the people become the weapon.
Who is he?
James, you don't know what this is.
James Bond. License to kill. In love with Madeleine Swan. I could be speaking to my own reflection. Only your skills die with your body. And life is all about leaving something behind. Isn't it?
Come on, Bond. Where the hell are you?
Okay.
If we don't do this, there will be nothing left to save.
I have to finish this. You ever flown one of these?
No.
I thought we were going to have the perfect start, and then
did you do?
we managed to get Alex gulping tea at the
I
beginning.
waited. I waited.
Oh
I
my
was
God.
waiting.
You think for the very last Bondathon, we'd get
Make
it right,
up bloody
anyway.
effort, wouldn't you? Blimey. Bond
I
did,
know.
didn't he?
God, there's always one. Welcome back to the Tailoring Talk magazine. Yes, it's time for the very last Bondathon. My friends and I are watching the entire James Bond series from start to finish, beginning with Dr. No, working our way through one movie, 1 month at a time, and we are finally here at the very last Bond movie. Well, for now, because James Bond
Will return. He will.
Okay. If you are...
They will return. That'll just come through.
I'm really sorry, they've been day drinking again. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Please don't switch off just yet, because we've got a really great show lined up for you. And hit that subscribe button, and also give us a like, or you can give us a thumbs down if you don't like this. That's absolutely fine. And remember, join in the comments. We really love that. We are hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers by Christmas, so if we're not there already by the time this episode goes out, please just hit subscribe and help us out. And if you're listening the traditional way on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the other many podcast listening platforms that are out there, please do leave us a rating and a review if your podcast vessel allows. I am joined today by regular co-hosts of TTM. First off, it's The Voice, who we are not hearing for the last time because we've got plenty of stuff we need to moan about in the weeks and months to come. It is John Evans. John, the Swiss Army knife of teachers, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Yes, very good. It's predicted snow in my area, but I think it's just going to be rain and sleet as always, which is part of our human condition down here in the the little country on the outside of Europe. But yeah, all good.
Yeah, we did have snow in North London, and then it progressively turned to sleet as I got closer to town today.
It's like winning the lottery and getting given 10p, isn't it? Snow in England.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. Although I was on my Vespa and I was absolutely freezing, and I regretted it. But the point of regret and severe pain in my hands and my feet I was kind of just past the halfway point of no return, so I had to persevere. But I think the bike is going to get put away for winter.
Yeah,
so
me
there
too.
we go. Yeah. So a tenuous link to gadgets there, because I need to introduce the heart of Tailoring Talk magazine. It is the gadget guru with a heart of gold, Alex Hansford. Alex, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Not bad. Better having seen this film.
Oh, okay, good, because a lot of
It
people
was a very good film.
How do you take your tea, by the way?
Julie Andrews, white nun.
With a spoonful of sugar?
No, white and none in terms of sugar.
See, Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews.
From The Sound
Yeah.
of Music.
No,
Julie
nun.
Andrews,
She's a nun, Bobby, and he's got no sugar, so it's none of the sugar. White and a nun.
No,
White nun. Yeah.
I was
White
thinking of
nun.
Mary Poppins. She was Mary Poppins, right?
Yeah, she was as well, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
But that's not the joke. That's not the point of it.
No.
Yeah, but you said like Julie Andrews, and I immediately thought sugar, because that makes sense, doesn't it? A spoonful of sugar.
You must really struggle with rhyming slang, because you must like pick the wrong thing and then what's milk and beans?
Well, it's milk and baked beans, right?
Jeans, mate. It's jeans, isn't it?
Jeans.
Yeah. You'd think a tailor would know that, wouldn't you, Alex?
I don't think jeans were invented when Cockney rhyming slang came out. Anyway, right, on with the show. So, if you have not seen No Time to Die, because that is the movie that we're reviewing and discussing today, please hit pause. And it's fairly plausible, guys. I mean, come on, it was only 4 years ago, so we're sort of fully up to date now.
Yeah.
But hit pause, go watch the film, come back and join us, because we will be spoiling the living daylights out of this movie. It's the last time I get to say that. It was so sad. But yes, No Time to Die. Now, this was the first major... Well, it was the first motion picture release in cinemas post-pandemic. I was very excited to go back to the cinema after all that COVID nonsense. And I remember coming out of this one feeling quite melancholy and quite contemplative, if that's even a word. But you know what I mean? I was contemplating things a lot.
Didn't they say, Bobby, that this film saved cinema after the COVID lockdown?
Yeah, well, with the box office numbers that it did, it
was meant
like
to,
the
yeah.
highest grossing post-pandemic era film. But we will get onto that later when we get into the numbers. But yeah, I was really glad to see it the second time around, because I did buy it the moment it came out on VOD.
Yeah, me too.
But I never went back to it because I for some reason, I don't know, I just wasn't sure, or I don't know what it was. But actually watching it, I was really, 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 really glad to go back to it. And I think I appreciated it much better the second time around. John, how about you? Did you go see it on your own? Did you go with Becca?
Yes and yes. I went to see it on my
Okay,
own.
fine. Alex?
First. No. Listen, I went to see it on my own, and Becca was furious that she hadn't seen it with me. So then I went to see it again with her, but didn't tell her about the ending, which I won't mention until people have got to that point in the podcast. But it was quite nice, quite interesting watching her reaction, because kind of there's the point in the film where you can kind of tell what's going to happen. She kept saying to me, "Hold on, that's not going to happen, is it? Hold on, that's not going to happen, is it?" And I had to sort of hold myself back from giving her any clues. So it was interesting. Yeah. So this time I saw it before this podcast. This is the third time I've seen it, and I appreciated it even more the third time, I think.
Alex, did you and Amy take a sort of post-ish COVID trip to the cinema?
We did. It was quite similar to John, in that I saw it in a midnight showing with some of the lads that I go and see midnight showings with. And so really enjoyed it, and then went, damn it, I can't tell anyone about this at all because I'm going to ruin it. So then I went back to Amy and I was like, yeah, we have to watch this. So we did. So we went and saw it. It's in an IMAX cinema, which was really good. But I believe that we still had to wear masks and at that time, and it was a very strange watching experience. It was. I mean,
considering the main character wears a mask at the beginning of the film as well, it's interesting, wasn't it? One of the main characters.
Yeah. It's not an ideal viewing experience. And then you had this odd dance like later after, once people had kind of relaxed a bit, where everyone would wear their mask up to the point that they sat down and then they took their mask off. And it just felt weird at the time, I think, because we were so unused to close contact with people. So it really did like shutter huge cinemas, and a lot of them were just bailed out by the government and stuff, because they just all went bankrupt, because with no visitors you can't run a cinema. So
It makes me very sad, Alex,
yeah,
because only really post-COVID have the big chains really thrived, and I don't think anymore, and we'll talk about it later on perhaps, that the big chain experience is the best way to see these films anymore, really. Like some of the more corporate multiplexes. It's not my favourite way of seeing a film anymore. We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's worth us having a chat about that separately. Could be a follow-up podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, this was rebirth of the cinema from the slumber that it had to have at the time. And what a rebirth. I mean, like, you know, the film itself blows you away a bit in lots of different ways. And it's you know, so what a one to start on again, I think.
Yeah. Well, Bond in this movie gets blown away a few times at various points, doesn't he? We'll come on to that. And do you know what? Let's do a little public service announcement. Anyone who's listening, I'm sure our regular listeners aren't in this category, but you know, share this with anyone you know that happens to do this. When you go to a cinema, it's an experience. People have paid their ticket to watch the movie. They've not paid to listen to you rabbit onto your friends, talk on your bloody phone, to see the lights of your phone whilst you're on WhatsApp or TikTok or whatever the bloody hell it is. If you want to do that stuff, don't go into the cinema. Sit outside or just go somewhere else. You're in the cinema, switch your bloody phone off, be respectful to everybody else that has paid their hard-earned money, because it's not a cheap outing, and enjoy the film. Thank you. We will be back on another episode of the Tailoring Talk magazine to discuss that and other aspects of public etiquette that are in the bin these days in more detail. Anyhow, and also, if you happen to spot me in the same screening as you, definitely keep your mouth shut, because I'm not one of those people that's like, switch your phone off, please, and you can tell to fuck off. I will literally come pick you up and throw you out. No Time to Die, Bond's epic finale. After redefining James Bond for the modern era, Daniel Craig's fifth and final film, No Time to Die, brought his tenure to a dramatic and emotional conclusion. Directed by Kerry Joji Fukunaga, the 25th entry in the James Bond series aimed to tie up all loose ends, elevate the stakes, and give Daniel Craig's Bond a definitive ending. The result is a bold, polarising, and very personal film that balances high-octane action, emotional depth, and the weight of 007's legacy. Released in 2021 after significant delays, No Time to Die was not just another Bond film, it was a cultural event capping Craig's 15-year tenure with the franchise and leaving a lasting impression on the character's legacy. From production challenges to box office triumphs, this chapter in Bond history is as compelling behind the scenes as it is on screen. So there were a number of challenges for this film that go back to before the pandemic. So the idea for No Time to Die began taking shape shortly after the release of Spectre in 2015. While that film had been a financial success, its mixed reception at the box office left the producers and Daniel Craig questioning how to move forward. I should have said with the audience, not the box office. It was a hit at the box office. Initially, Craig had been vocal about not returning for another James Bond film, famously stating in one interview that he would rather slash his wrists than play the role again. However, after some reflection and reportedly a record-breaking $25 million paycheck, Daniel Craig agreed to return.
Sorry.
Thank you. Citing a desire to conclude Bond's story on his terms. EON Productions faced a challenge. No Time to Die had to deliver a fitting send-off while maintaining the franchise's momentum. Purvis and Wade, longtime Bond screenwriters since The World Is Not Enough, returned to write the script, but creative disagreements soon emerged. Danny Boyle had originally been hired to direct, and he envisioned a much more experimental Bond film, but his vision clashed with the producers. He departed in 2018, leaving the project without a director or a finalised script. Kerry Joji Fukunaga became the first American to direct a Bond film, bringing a distinct storytelling style and cinematic flair. He built a reputation for bold, character-driven narratives, having directed the first season of True Detective, which for me is still the very best one, Beasts of No Nation, and he sought to deepen 007's emotional journey while honouring the legacy of the series. He co-wrote the script alongside Purvis Wade and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who was brought in to add some flair and brevity, light-hearted brevity to the script. Her contributions also infused some sharp wit and some more nuanced dialogue into the film, which I really, really appreciated. We talked about how Daniel Craig's delivery of jokes that were written into the previous films kind of fell a bit flat. They definitely worked much better for me personally in this film. Fukunaga's direction also prioritised realism and practical effects. He emphasised the use of real stunts and locations, ensuring the action sequences felt visceral and grounded. His vision for the film was ambitious, aiming to make the film not just a Bond story, but a cinematic epic, which I think he succeeded in, because this is one of the best looking Bond films ever. It just was amazing. I absolutely just couldn't take my eyes off the screen for this one. Guys, Alex, because you're already gushing about this film.
Yeah. So there's a lot to this film. It carries such an emotional weight. It's very different to a normal Bond. Like, I think that's what one of the things that sets this apart. And like, it's funny because Spectre's like the counterpoint of this. So you do Spectre first, and then you move on to this. But one of the things is that Spectre doesn't have the weight that this does emotionally, and it feels light in lots of ways. Even the serious bits, you don't really feel that engaged, that emotionally invested in it. Whereas for this one, all of that setup pays off, and all of a sudden you just particularly after you get through the first like half an hour and you kind of really bed into the film, you're seeing it through Bond's eyes. You're feeling the frustration from Bond. You're all of his emotions that he's clearly going through. You're feeling them as well, and for me, that's like a really powerful thing, which is surprising when you think it's a Bond, because Bonds are not meant to be that. They're meant to be light and interesting and like tackling interesting stuff and good scenes. But you're not meant to be emotionally invested in their film. And
they're pretty
that's
kitsch,
what
aren't they,
I enjoy about this.
Alex? The early Bond films
exactly.
Kitsch,
They're meant
really.
to be light.
I mean, they are
totally.
the films that Austin Powers parodies, really, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And those are also some of the best Bonds. They're the ones that you just come out of grinning eye to eye. To it. And this is not one of those films. But because you've done the work to get to this point, it just carries so much weight. And I think that's what makes this a really, really good Bond. We'll talk about whether it's the best Bond. But yeah, and the filming is just spot on. I feel like there's not any cinematography issues in this film whatsoever. There's no real problems. It's just very consistently good throughout. If I had to, there's still a question about is Skyfall or that better just because of some of the locations that Skyfall's at. But yeah, no. So it's super hard to fault this, but it is a different thing you're going into, and that's what surprises you. But it's also kind of you get the payoff at the end. So yeah, I can't say good enough. More good stuff about this, really.
For me, what Alex says weighs heavily with me is the emotional content of it. I think the last film, the Bond film I was really moved in, was when M died, and I think this is for me a more emotional experience. And that's what kind of gives it kind of a bit of a gold seal to the film. I think is just how they're not insulting the viewer's intelligence by Bond at the last minute. Is, well, I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil. We can talk about spoilers now. You've done the spoiler one, haven't you, Bobby? Yeah, but
we can. I mean, look, if anybody is still listening and doesn't want to know about what happens, you haven't seen it. I'm going to count back from 5. And just give you a moment to jump off of this and then go see the film, because it is, like I say, it's perfectly plausible because it was only 4 years ago that there might be people who've been following along the Bondathon with us and haven't seen it. So 5, 4, 3, 2, go.
So yeah, in the cinema, I knew Bond was going to die at the end, and I watched Becca react, and she kept saying to me, "No, they can't. They're not going to do this. No, they're not going to do this. They're not going to do." And then when they did, she was absolutely shocked. And Alex, you hinted at a follow-up podcast. We'll probably going to speculate about next Bond later on in another podcast. But I think they were very brave. They actually did something very different at the end. And the fact they killed off all the Spectre as well in this film, it was. I sat afterwards thinking about this, thinking they must, because at the end, right at the end, the credits, there is a James Bond will return message. And it's been 3 years, hasn't it? And we haven't seen any news about Bond. But they obviously even then had a plan. And so I think it was a really interesting bookmark of a film to watch, in that certain things are being closed down and finished. And I thought that was really a really interesting slant on the film that I really enjoyed. And yes, I mean the scenery is amazing. I loved the chase in the Jeep, the Range Rovers, where when the extra vehicles appear and they're all flying in the air down towards them, and just very bombastic without it being Roger Moore over the top, if that makes sense, which I liked as well. It's still, you still got the excitement of all these scenes without it being too ridiculous. You know, there's grounded reality in the film. Loved it. How about you, Bobby?
Yeah, visually, I couldn't take my eyes off it. And I think the other thing as well that got me the first time round was because he brought Hans Zimmer in to do the score for this film. Hans Zimmer's first Bond movie ever. He was taken away from Christopher Nolan. So Tenet, I believe, was the first Nolan film to not be scored by Hans Zimmer because he was doing No Time to Die. And I think that also really, really helped. Because, as you guys know, I'm very passionate about the combination of the music with the visuals. And there were no real jarring moments for me in this, aside from I wish that they had taken the opportunity as the last Daniel Craig film to actually use the Bond theme in more places and a bit more obviously as well. It was hinted at quite a lot. And even at the very end, and even through the credits, you don't get the full thing, which, you know, I think is just a bit of a shame, really.
Ludwig Göransson did Tenet, didn't he, Bobby? Ludwig Göransson, I think, did the soundtrack to Arrival as well.
Yeah,
he's also a very good musician. But I love the inclusion of "We Have All the Time in the World" as well at the beginning, bookmarking both ends of the film. I thought that was so moving. It really was.
So yeah, I mean, you know, talking about knowing that he was gonna die at the beginning of the film, when it then after that prologue, which we'll talk about in a second, and then it segues into Italy, present day, with him and Madeline, and you get that strand of "We Have All the Time in the World" in the music, and as they're driving the car, and I immediately turned around to Carolina. I said, "He's not making it out of this one," and so she whispered back, "What makes you say that? Wouldn't it mean that she's going to die?" And I said, "No." I said, "Because they already killed Diana Rigg in the other one.
Yeah.
I reckon they've flipped it round." But I said, "There's no way they're using that on Her Majesty's Secret Service theme and him not dying. He's going. That's it." And so I kind of sat there watching this film for the first time ever, not knowing. Obviously, this is just me speculating, but instinctively, I knew he wasn't going to make it out.
Do you
So
think,
it
Bobby,
makes for an interesting...
you've watched too much Bond? Now you know too much to enjoy the films anymore. You're in too deep,
No,
Bobby. You're in too deep. That's the problem.
If anything, I think and we'll talk about this more in detail on a separate episode. I think because there's a lot of film to get through tonight. I think that I don't regret doing the Bondathon. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I'm going to start this all over again on my own after.
Do you know what, Bobby? Do you know who else?
I think
do you know who else should have done the Bondathon with us? Which actor from the film should have been following the Bondathon with us before this film was made? Can you guess which actor?
Lashana Lynch.
Yeah. Do you know why?
No.
So Lashana Lynch had never seen any of the Bond films prior to taking part in this one. So when her role had been cast, she sat down and watched every single Bond back to back from Dr. No right up to Spectre before filming. So this podcast, you never know, she may even listen to it. Lashana, if you're listening, let us know. Yeah, thanks, Bobby. But I think that's really interesting that she'd never seen a Bond before becoming 007 in a Bond film. Isn't that mad? Anyway.
Yeah.
That is
Nothing
crazy.
against Lashana, but Anna, if you're listening, give me a call.
She'll be back.
Slip into my DMs. So yeah, there we go. Right, now I've distracted everybody. So, interesting stuff. When Danny Boyle was originally hired to do this film, he pitched it to take place in present-day Russia and explore 007's origins. And then Broccoli and Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, they lost confidence in his idea, so basically he went. That was the creative difference bit.
Is that when they brought in Phoebe as well, Bobby? I presume they would have replaced...
Yeah.
Like for extra writing duties after he left, I guess.
So during Danny Boyle's time working on the film, a leaked casting sheet described the male leading role as a cold and charismatic Russian, and the female lead role as a witty and skillful survivor. Production also sought male and supporting roles of Maori descent with advanced combat skills. The idea of Bond having a child was introduced by Hodge and retained, I think that's John Hodge, and retained for the final script. Waller-Bridge was brought in, so Phoebe Waller-Bridge, people will know from Fleabag and various other things.
Indiana Jones,
she was hired,
Star Wars.
Indiana Jones, yeah. She was hired to revise dialogue, work on character development, and add humour. The character of Paloma was made more significant from originally being just a simple contact. Purvis and Wade indicated this was probably written by Waller-Bridge at the director Fukunaga's request. No Time to Die is the first Eon film in which Bond actually dies. Daniel Craig first proposed killing Bond back in 2006 after the premiere of Casino Royale. Barbara Broccoli agreed to the suggestion, and Daniel Craig said, "It's the only way I can see for myself to end it all, to make it like that was my time, my tenure. Someone else can come and take over when my Bond goes. I want to make sure he can't come back." It's kind of echoes of Harrison Ford in Star Wars, wanting to kill Han Solo off very, very early on.
Spoiler.
Michael Wilson agreed that it was a fitting way to deal with a situation where a person is risking their life all the time. Eventually the odds catch up with you. And the film had that sort of feeling to it as well, that, you know, he can't possibly keep surviving these situations, and after everything he's done, and they allude to this in the dialogue, especially Saffin's little monologue to him about all that he's done, and, you know, everyone is killed and all the rest of it, right? The production team considered several ways for Bond to die. There's a title for the next Bond film, including being shot by an anonymous shooter. However, the Fukunaga said that a conventional weapons death felt inappropriate, considering Bond had been able to escape from everything else in his career. Daniel Craig said the team tried to create a sense of tragedy and weight by using Saffin's bioweapon, which killed the only thing that Bond wants in life, which is to be with the people that he loves.
I thought that was an amazing sort of part of the story. Just the bitterness of the bittersweet irony of it all completely. Like, the whole plot was about this nanite kind of chemical thing. What's it called? Heracles.
Nanobots, Heracles.
Yeah, Heracles, yeah. And just like that was the thing at the end that really decides what's going on. I thought it was really clever.
Yeah. Let's move a little bit through the story now. I'll try not to do this too in depth, so we'll just kind of take a high-flying view. But the opening sequence, No Time to Die, begins with one of the most haunting prologues in the entire series, set in the icy wilderness of Norway. The scene flashes back to Madeleine Swan's traumatic childhood. A masked Lucifer Saffin, played by Rami Malek, invades her family's home to kill her father, Mr. White, as revenge for Mr. White's role in Saffin's family's death. His cold, calculated demeanour and the eerie mask establish him as a chilling antagonist. I mean, I was freaked out when I saw that. I mean, it had sort of echoes of, you know, Jason's mask in Halloween and stuff.
Do you know
like
what the
that.
mask? Do you know what the mask is known as?
No,
the origin of the mask.
Well,
The mask is actually a Japanese mask made from blocks of Japanese cypress, and then they use natural pigments to paint it. I think it gets used a lot in the Japanese operas, but it's actually known as a no mask, NOH. So when the character was first introduced, and some of the shots were leaked, and they looked at the no mask, they thought perhaps at the time that they were going to bring back Bond villain Dr. Julius No. It's a sort of clever spin on Dr. No, but I think that's just a coincidence. But you're right. The mask is brilliant, I think. It's a shame they didn't keep it on for longer, really.
Yeah. I mean, I was just riveted by that opening, and I remember the same in the cinema as well. It was just kind of like brutal and horrifying in a way. So yeah, kind of different from the really big opening Bond set sequences. But then that's
long as well.
Just the first. Yeah, very long.
24 minutes long.
Then, yeah, and also I like the way it links back to Spectre, and that's why with the Daniel Craig films, you really do need to watch them quite close to each other so that you kind of get the links between
the thread.
them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when Madeleine goes to the kitchen and she's looking under the sink for a rag or something, and then the gun is underneath.
So cool.
We remember in Spectre that she tells Bond that, you know, my dad kept a gun under the kitchen sink, and she used that to kill the intruder. Yeah, I couldn't find anything because for that it sounds like in Spectre they were kind of already setting up the next one, but then I guess maybe not. Maybe that was just coincidence that, you know.
Well, in Spectre,
that bit.
Do you remember Bond asks Madeleine, "Have you ever used one of these before?" And she said, she kind of alludes, "Yeah, I've handled one before." And she's, you know, so, and as you say, she mentions this thing, but I think it's quite easy to go back and look at that film and include those features into this film without having to write it all in one go. It's an easy thing to do, isn't it?
She tries to get into the underground
bunker
area where the bunker, that's it. So she tries to get into that, which obviously if you see them close together, you're like, hang on a minute, that's familiar. Why is that? And so that's really, again, it's all very nicely tied together. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't it doesn't treat you with kid gloves. It kind of just says, no, you're grown up. You'll work it out as we go along, and you do, but you do it in your own way as you all of a sudden you kind of work it out, and that's really good. So I really like how it's. I like how you're introduced to the house, and then all of a sudden it becomes apparent. Like, hang on a minute, this is just like the one that we saw in the last one. Okay, but it just seems to happen so naturally. That's what I love about it. It could have very easily just been like a little line at the front that says like Norway, that house again, or something like that. And we would have and other Bonds would have done it that way. So that's why I like it.
Yeah, the prologue transitions into the present where Bond and Madeleine, who are now in love, travel to Matera in Italy. Bond visits the grave of Vesper Lynd, seeking closure for his lost love at Madeleine's request, because she says she can't tell him all her secrets and they can't move on with their relationship until he has closure on his previous relationship with Vesper, who prior to Madeleine was the biggest love of his life. However, an explosive ambush interrupts their peace, leading to an amazing car chase through Matera's winding streets.
Great.
Bond believes that Madeleine has betrayed him. He leaves her. This sets the stage for the rest of the story, which is defined by elements of trust, betrayal, and ultimately redemption. So yeah, first off, how good does he look in this sequence?
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll maybe talk about his suits later on, but I think the suits really complemented his look in this film better than the last film. I've seen it
called Right. Do you know?
Yeah. Sorry, Carl.
That outfit has inspired me to go back to make my list of Bond outfits from Dr. No through to No Time to Die, and I'm going to recreate. So not all of them, but my favourites, and I'm going to recreate all of them, like at least one from every single film over the next couple of years.
Nice,
including that double-breasted coat that Pierce Brosnan wears in The World Is Not Enough.
Another Day.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Okay.
Yeah, when he picks up the BMW.
Oh yeah, from the underground garage. This Matera scene's great. I mean, the stunts are great. The bike up the wall stunt's amazing. And Becca said to me when she watched that, that's CGI, and I said no, that was done. They used like a big 8-meter ramp, and he drove up there about 60 kilometers an hour to get airborne. But that was all real. Because I think prior to the film, they had a few like featurettes showing that sequence. I've also seen a breakdown of the drunk bridge that he has to hide behind that block on the bridge as the Cyclops guy is chasing him. I've seen Corridor Crew do a breakdown of that scene, and sadly that car in that scene is all CGI, but it's so well done you wouldn't know. You know, it's so well like storyboarded and shot so cleanly. It's cracking sequence, really good. And I love the spinning round on the tire sequence with the minigun out the front of the car. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and the music, I mean, that is the perfect action sequence because of the music as well. Just the play on the Bond theme for that, but just with the hypertension and the drama. Because you're kind of, I don't know about you guys, but I was more on the passenger seat with Madeleine during that bit while they're shooting at the car. Like, oh my God, the glass is going to break any second and now that's it, we're dead.
He's so chilled though, isn't he,
do
Bond?
Something.
He's so chilled in that
he's
sequence.
Angry.
Yeah.
He's just simmering with anger and it's right under the surface and it's like he's going to explode. But which way is he going to explode? Does he explode at her and self-destruct, or does he explode at the people that are attacking them? And luckily, he eventually sort of wakes up and then he explodes at the people attacking him. But then we get every gadget that you'd ever want on that DB5, including some old surprises as well. But we'll come back to that in our favourite segment of the Bondathon.
They used eight stunt replicas of the DB5, the gunmetal grey one. And they had to have two of the vehicles. They had to house the mine dispensers, like the sort of exploding caltraps and the miniguns. And then they had another two cars that were controlled by stunt drivers in a cage on the roof, so that the actors could be filmed driving along in those sequences without killing themselves. But again, lovely to see the DB5 in action as well. Such a beautiful car. Yeah.
The other thing I really enjoyed was a lot of the pickup shots was still Daniel Craig, like on the motorbike and stuff. You know, he really gave his all. I mean, he tore ligaments on this film. That it delayed filming by a few weeks during some sequence in Jamaica, I think.
Do you know how he did that?
So ankle ligaments.
Do you know how he did that?
Go on.
There was no stunts involved. He was just walking along on set and tripped up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
It's
But
really innocuous thing.
No, it was. But he made a joke about it at the time. He said, "Oh yeah, no, it was done by some action sequence, but it was just him tripping up over a cable on set, apparently."
Okay. But anyway, still,
Yeah.
so you know, you didn't. There was no point. I looked at anything in there, and I thought that's a double. You know, if there was any double use during that film, which there would have been, like the motorbike sequence when he, you know, goes up that 60-foot ramp or whatever, and also when he grabs the rope and swings off the bridge. But otherwise, you know, a lot of the motorbike shots with him on were him, and there was another really great one. Oh no, sorry, it's the one where he gets the guy off the motorbike, where he jumps at the guy, like to get the motorbike.
Oh,
that was Daniel Craig. It was crazy.
Nice.
So yeah, Heracles. So 5 years later,
Heracles.
Bond is.
Heracles.
Oh no, sorry. Let's talk about another emotional beat. So when they finish all of that, the bit where he takes Madeleine to the train station and puts her on the train, and he's not going with her, and then she grabs her tummy.
She just taps her tummy.
Again in the cinema. Yeah, in the cinema, I was like, she's pregnant.
I did exactly the same thing. Exactly the same. Bond's got a kid.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
I mean, I don't think we're that smart, John. I think it was deliberate.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Let's not get carried away. Right? It was engineered. Yeah. But anyway, right? Because we're the audience. We're meant to know she's pregnant. I mean, you know, you would have thought that Bond would have got it, but maybe he was just really pissed off at the time and wasn't picking up on signals. So then we cut to 5 years later. Bond is retired in Jamaica, living on his own. His former CIA ally and friend, Felix Leiter, played by Jeffrey Wright, returning to the role, recruits him to track down Valdo Obruchev, a scientist abducted by Spectre. Bond's mission uncovers Project Heracles, a bioweapon engineered using nanotechnology.
Heracles.
Whatever. The nanobots are programmed to target specific DNA, making them both a precise weapon and an existential threat. As Bond investigates, he reunites with Madeleine only to discover she harbours a secret Matilde. A young girl who may be his daughter, Matilda in English. This revelation adds emotional stakes to the mission as Bond fights to protect his newfound family. So let's go back to the whole Jamaica sequence, because that's the first time we meet the new 007, played by Lashana Lynch, who I remember not liking the first time I met her, and I don't know.
Not meant to, are you?
Yeah.
No. I think
she's the new 007, and I was like, really?
I think she's got enough to do, and I think actually she doesn't come across too cold. I think it's just that we're so invested in Bond, and if it wasn't for that, I think we probably would be a bit more, understanding about it. But because we're so invested in him, it just like anyone else, it's just like feels jarring. But actually, she didn't do anything wrong. Her attitude was great, and she came across as exceedingly competent. She had a bit of
it was fun though,
humor in
wasn't it?
there. You know,
it was fun when she got bested at the Havana, the Cuban hotel.
Totally,
mission. I thought it was quite good fun.
But I think that's the challenge we had with it, because I think that's the problem, Bobby. We're so invested in Bond in this one that anything else is just like we're almost going, no, go away, no, this is Bond's film, leave him alone. And I think but that's how we're feeling, and that's where it's different. But yeah, someone else taking the 007 moniker was always going to be controversial. It didn't actually matter who it was. It wouldn't have made any difference.
Do you think,
man or whatever?
Alex, do you think they're preparing us in that case for the next Bond film where we haven't got Craig as Bond? I'm not saying LaShawn will be the new Bond. I'm just saying they're easing the public into getting a feel for a Bond that isn't Craig. Or is that too? Am I thinking too much into this?
I think that you could. So, I'd like to see her again, but not necessarily. She doesn't have to be 007.
Well, she's in that new Eddie Redmayne series, isn't she? Dare the Jackal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she likes her spy stuff.
Yeah, she got that from a Bond work, didn't she? But which all credit to her, because it's the same thing with Anna as well, because she's got the
John Wick thing,
film coming up, Ballerina. So so it's kind of they're both really capable. I think she comes across a little cold to start, but again, it's all part of the character and the story line. When you actually when you sit back and watch it, and I've watched it a couple of times because I just really wanted to absorb it enough. And once you do that, you actually go, no, she's light. She's got humour. She's and I think that's the thing. It's no one would fill the gap that we have with Craig while he's on the screen. So when he's off the screen, it'll be like it's easier for us to go, oh, okay, that's the Bond. Oh, got it. Yeah. I don't think it'll be a Jane Bond. I think it's going to be a James Bond.
I don't think they were intentionally, trying to hint at anything with her casting. I just think that we read too much into it. Because there was a lot of speculation. Is she going to take over? Are we going to have our first black James Bond? If it's a female, will it be her? Will it be someone like Idris Elba? I think it kind of inadvertently led to a lot of speculation. But, watching it the second time, I really, really liked her performance. The one bit that did sort of, not really jar with me, but it was a bit distracting, was when, Bond's back in the fold and he's a 00 again, and they're getting the full briefing from M. And she interrupts at least twice, and she's like, it's like she's almost not listening to the importance of this mission. It's like, sorry, what 00 number is he getting? Sorry, which 00 again?
A bit petty. A bit petty is what you're saying, Bob.
Yeah, and I think that sounds like it's a Phoebe Waller-Bridge thing. And that's my only problem with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, is that sometimes she just goes a little bit too much, and her writing can take you out of things. So you almost wish that, and it happened with Indiana Jones, and whatever that bloody last film was called.
The Last Crusade,
it happened in Star Wars.
Was it Dial of Destiny?
Dial of
Destiny, yeah. And it also happened, in Star Wars, in Solo, as well. And while I'm all for, you've got to change things up and you've got to bring fresh people in, and don't get me wrong, I love her as an actress, I love her as a comedy performer. I think she's absolutely amazing. But I think sometimes she just needs to just rein it back just a touch. One of those would have been enough for me, but not like, twice during a very world critical sort of mission briefing. I just, maybe that's me just being a grumpy old bastard. Lashana Lynch. Yeah, Lashana Lynch 007. Lea Seydoux returns as Madeleine Swan, returning from Spectre. Her Madeleine Swan is very important to the story. Her backstory connects to the film's villain, Saffin, and her relationship with Bond drives much of the emotional tension through the movie. She gives a sensitive and powerful performance, portraying Madeleine as a woman torn between her past and her desire for a future with Bond. I mean, I thought she was great. I still repeat what I said on the last one after Spectre, that she's now up there in my top 5 Bond girls of all time. I think she's absolutely brilliant. She shows vulnerability, but also power, strength, ferocity. She still was kidnapped and needed to be rescued at one point in this, but she does a lot of heavy lifting on her own and is reasonably self-sufficient as well. So, but then there was a sequence in Cuba that kind of put a grenade into my top 5 Bond girls of all time. But we'll talk about, but let's stay on Leia for a second. And yes, so Alex, any further thoughts? Because we were trying to wheedle your top 5 Bond girls last time, and you were being coy.
I'm still being coy. I think that's another podcast. But I do think she's in my top 10. So I think she's a very compelling Bond girl, and she gets quite a lot to do in this thing. I'm just seeing a lot of pointing.
I have no... Alex, I'm with you. I don't know what the hell he's doing.
This is why I don't win at charades, John. Number 2. It's
not time for the Shagathon yet.
I think it could be.
Bonkathon.
Well, we'll do that. We'll do that in a bit. But yeah, so I think it's really good. But I won't say whether she's in my top 5 until we do the podcast.
Oh, okay, fine. Are we going to string this out? So we're going to do a podcast on Bond.
We're totally going to string this out.
A podcast on gadgets, a podcast on this and that and blah. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
we'll work it out. I think there's a Bond girl one, and there may be a future Bond one. Could be an interesting topic. So we'll have a think about that.
Yeah, John, you're never shy to talk about your Bond women.
Oh, Anna's gone up to my number 1.
No, we're not talking about her just yet.
You can tell from
my France.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Disappointed now.
So, sorry, Bobby, say again.
Build it up.
We'll have to think about Anna, nothing else, really.
Okay, fine. We'll move on then. But before we get to Anna, let's talk about Rami Malek as Saffin. An understated villain.
Wait, there's never been... No, I'll speak before you do your big spiel. Just his name. It's just the most obvious little hint at Lucifer. Lucifer Satan. I mean, what's that all about? Come on. Anyway, carry on.
It's a bit lazy, wasn't it?
His surname is Saffin.
Saffin's pretty close, isn't it?
Saffin.
Lucifer Satan.
Satan.
Come on, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway. Go on
They're
then.
not even trying.
I didn't have a big monologue for him. I mean,
Oh,
just
right.
to remind our viewers that his motivations were basically to seek revenge for the death of his family at the hands of Spectre, and he uses Project Heracles.
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 Yeah,
Whatever.
God of Strength.
Hercules. It's the Greek
Um,
pronunciation of Hercules, Bobby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he uses Project Heracles to do it, which makes him a modern day megalomaniac. I mean, the thing that I really liked is that he had a layer. Like, he had an island and he had a layer. And it's been ages since we had... I mean, I don't think we had any layers in these Daniel Craig movies.
Layers.
So it was really
Yeah.
nice. And also, it kind of... I think I read somewhere, someone else noticed it, because I had sort of goosebumps when I saw his layer, the inside of it, because it looked a bit like the one in The Spy Who Loved Me.
He's the 8th Bond villain to have an island lair, isn't he? And I think that was a really nice touch as well, to have a proper island lair.
So a lot of critics said that his character was severely underdeveloped compared to other
don't think
villains.
so.
But I didn't agree with that. I thought his motivations, I mean, whilst extreme, but that's generally how people in Bond films react. I think it was pretty plausible. I mean, look, Spectre freaking kill your whole family. Although I was like, then why do you want to kill the rest of the world?
Well, I mean, he's a Bond villain,
wanted
isn't
to
he?
kill
He's a
Spectre.
nutter. He's a nutter. I don't think I'm sad that we didn't see more of him. I think he needs more screen time. That's the only thing I could say. A bit more of him posturing and explaining and showing off his weird veiny face really would be cool.
Yeah. Jeffrey Wright as Felix Leiter returning.
Oh,
My favourite Felix.
My favourite Felix too.
He is also the
Delivers
most
a really
often appearing Felix as well.
delivers a highly emotional send off when he dies aboard a sinking ship after his CIA colleague is revealed
Losh,
to
is it
be
Losh?
a Saffin agent, which marks a rare loss for 007.
Logan Ash.
Solidifies their friendship as one of the most genuine in the entire series. The last time we saw that sort of love for Felix Leiter from 007 was Timothy Dalton's Bond in License to Kill. But whilst that was awful, this really was my first, I remember crying in the cinema and I was really upset this time around as well. And I know you got dusty eyes as well, John, didn't you?
Yeah, I loved him.
it's
I
the
love
way-
Felix.
Yeah, and Alex, it's what he says just before he passes away to Bond. It's a good life or something, and I was just like, no, please, no, Felix, no. And then Daniel Craig's reaction is what broke me, and that because he's such a great actor, Daniel Craig. I mean, we can't forget that he's a wonderful actor, and those nuances that he shows in what is actually quite fast-paced editing sometimes, but that's just testament to his skill
Bobby,
as a performer.
Felix's last words are, I want to get back to my family and tell them I saved the world again. Those are his last words. I'm getting goosebumps now.
Oh, that has such impact, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Whew. The greatest money penny ever for my money. I was thinking about this because I've been a big fan of Samantha Bond, but Naomi Harris I think is just the best, and I really hope that she comes back as Moneypenny because she's just been brilliant. Not just someone who's sat and stuck at her desk just watching everything from afar and the occasional flirtation with Bond. She's been really integral to the action, and she's been part of his support group and his A-team, really.
The most developed Moneypenny
if you
in the
think of it
series,
that way.
isn't she? Really, the most
Yeah.
developed.
Yeah.
And I love that they opened up a little bit about Q's backstory as well, with him having possibly a gay relationship. I thought that was really nice as well. And that they have a life, and that he's disturbing their life as he comes around and spoils his sort of candlelit dinner. Yeah, we're going to talk about the future of Bond in another podcast, but I don't believe any of these characters we'll see again, unfortunately. But we'll talk about that another time.
I don't.
Which is a shame.
No.
And
I
speaking
think
of
the
Q,
thing is, those are Waller-Bridge moments, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes they stick out like a sore thumb, and other times you're like, yes, I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
It's a timing thing for her. Sometimes it works great, and other times it's like,
yeah, and I'm not saying like the thing I referred to earlier with Nomi. I'm not saying it's a terrible thing because in fact it did sort of lighten what was quite a serious thing going on. So yeah, so I'm not trying to shit all over her or anything, but yeah, and she's great. Ben Whishaw returns as Q. Q will always be Desmond Llewellyn to me, but I think Ben Whishaw's just done such a great job as a modern day, younger Q. It's been hinted at previously, but here he is gay. Unfortunately, Moneypenny and Bond gate crash him trying to prepare dinner for who he thinks is his partner at the door, and it's not. It's Bond and Moneypenny. But he's just been wonderful, and I think again, I've got some Paddington vibes from him at the very end when he realised that Bond was a goner and wasn't coming back. Just that gasp and that just that moment of realisation. But again, he's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful actor, and I really, really do love what he did with the role, especially his sort of gadget run through with Bond in Spectre.
But there were definitely
that was one of my favourites.
But there was definite lovely, gentle, friendly homage nods to Llewellyn when he says to her in his room about a bottle of wine, "Don't touch that." I just thought that was, little things like that which didn't, were maybe not completely necessary, but were lovely as well. You don't know how much of that is brought in by the actors and by the writers.
Yeah. And then from Q to the boss, Ray Fiennes returns
Voldemort.
as M. Voldemort. Yeah, that's especially when he's snarled as well. You're like, oh my god. Calm down, Tom. Calm down.
I think he's good as Mallory, but I think he's the weakest of the team in terms of. I think I don't know. He's fine. I just think he's a bit more replaceable than the others. Does that make sense?
See, I disagree. I think he was brilliant, and that was emphasised when he was sat in the corridor where he's facing Judi Dench's portrait, and they have all the other M's from the other Bond films there hanging up, and I just thought, do you know what? I love that scene for two reasons. Not just because it's a callback to previous M's and the previous actors, but also because I think that Ray Fiennes has done just as a good a job as all his predecessors. I think he's been brilliant as M, and also because we got to see him in action as well. Because at the end of the day, Mallory would have been an ex-service person, right? High-ranking, and someone who probably had seen combat as well. And he brought all of those elements. He took charge. He made the tough decisions as well. There were some times when you really were cheering for him, and there were other times where you could see he was doing the politicians thing or making decisions that we maybe as normal people wouldn't agree with, and we hated him for it. And because he was able to take us through such a roller coaster, and also he had the biggest fist punch moment of any M when he said that line in the last movie. Now we know what C stands for.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a bit biased, Bobby.
Really meant.
I'm a bit biased because I have a long-term affection for Judi Dench's M. And she was actually an aunt of sort of kids at my school. So she came over, opened up our new theatre and things, and so having met her and seen her in the room, and she's kind of a glowing personality herself. I guess I'm a bit biased there because I always loved Judi Dench's M more than anything else. But yeah, I can see what you're saying. He's not my M. That's the thing. So that's why probably.
Yeah. And Ray Fiennes, if you're ever listening to this, I'm so sorry. It's nepotism, basically.
Yeah, basically.
What else can I tell you? I mean, just because you've never been
Rafe.
in a room for him, he thinks you're shit.
Come and meet me and shake my hand, or maybe I'll change my mind. How about that?
Christoph Waltz returns as Hannibal Lecter. And Stavro Blofeld. Not in the film for long, but still, nevertheless, has an impact. He is... I mean, that guy literally shreds the screen every time he's on it, no matter what he's in. Did you ever see... It was based on a play. I can't remember the film. I can't remember the film's title, but it was with Kate Winslet, Christoph Waltz, and I can't remember who the other couple were, but it basically takes place in an apartment. Oh, God, John's probably looking it up now. If you haven't seen it, I haven't seen it for ages. I'm going to download it, actually, and watch it again. But he was
Georgetown, was it?
No. I'll find it at some point.
Okay. When was it filmed?
Come across it. It was probably
Carnage.
about 10 years ago. Carnage. That's
I
the
will
one.
spot it.
2011.
So good. He was so good in that. Kate Winslet's great in that as well. But then
He looks so young.
Kate
like
Winslet's
compared to
and everything. Right. Anyway, where were we? So he was back as Blofeld, but he wasn't in it for very long. Didn't have that much screen time, but for the time he was on, he was very impactful. And he gets killed off. So we only got Blofeld for like 2 movies, which I thought was kind of a shame. But
I'm sorry,
that's
Bobby.
the whole thing with Spectre, isn't it?
Yeah, I've just found a way of working out what film people have been in. I've got this clever app that you can pair people up and it finds their film. It's just found Carnage, so I can do that in future now. That's really good. I'm quite chuffed about that. But
Oh, cool.
yeah, I'll do that
Awesome.
later
That'll
on.
come in handy in future.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Who else? Who else? Who am I forgetting? Who am I forgetting?
In the film, well, Rory Kinnear is very good as Tanner still. I just like him. He's a very cool kind of side character.
We don't worry too much about NPCs. I was about to talk about Ana de Armas as
yes.
Paloma.
It's the final showing of Hugh Dennis
It is. You're right.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah,
as Dr. Hardy. That's his last showing there.
yeah.
I was a
That
bit
was-
sad to see that.
You know, I was happy for him that he got that part in the film, and I'm glad he got to bring a little bit of his humour in as well, because
Yeah.
we all love Hugh Dennis, whatever he does, especially from the Parents one,
Outnumbered.
with the kids, Outnumbered,
Yeah.
and obviously Mock the Week, he's brilliant on that. But it kind of took me out of the movie just a little bit at that point, but also I was horrified when they all got killed. And by the way,
It's good seeing that.
that whole sequence at the lab where they kill everybody in that lab, did that not? That was horrible.
It was horrible.
and it was almost like it was as horrible as the sequence in Tomorrow Never Dies when Elliot Carver basically has all those submarine people killed.
Yeah.
It was that level of brutality. Basically, it was absolutely awful. And for
I
what?
don't know, because I kind of I think the thing that lightened that scene up, David Denchik. Is that his name?
Emily's just farted in my lap, and it's
Valdo.
Valdo.
What's his name? Valdo.
Obachev.
I think I'm being
Obachev.
invaded with
Obachev.
nanobots that will never be able to be removed from my bloodstream.
Don't touch any more dogs, basically, mate. But yeah, Valdo.
My face
Obachev.
starts melting. My face is going to start melting any moment.
It's going to get dog warts.
I think I just loved the whole thing of having a Ebola sticker on the was it Ebola?
On his
the sticker
lunchbox.
on his lunch.
Yeah.
And it's just
Oh,
like,
that
and
boy's
I just thought to myself, that was great. And then obviously there's the cool bit where they throw him down the lift shaft.
Yeah.
And he's got magnets, and then because he drops. So but that I think that lightened, and it probably a bridge moment again, but it lightened what was a very dark scene because everyone else died. That was it.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a gesture, isn't
She
it?
trained.
Yeah.
She trained really hard for this.
Who did?
And
Oh, Anna.
And she's my favourite Bond girl of all time, despite the fact she was only in the film for about 10 minutes.
Do you know
But she's brilliant?
Boy, do you know how long she trained for this film?
Probably 3-4 months.
No, she trained for 3 weeks.
Crikey!
And that's-
I've seen footage from her training
Yeah,
sessions.
but you know why? That's why, you know the line in the film where she says, I've just had 3 weeks of training. Well, she was talking to one of the stunt coordinators about that, and they said you should say that in the movie. So when she says training for 3 weeks more or less to Bond, it's because in reality that's all she trained for this film. So fair play to her.
The other, I remember the first time I saw this as well, and I'd just seen Knives Out.
Yeah.
And you could really see that chemistry with Daniel Craig and her, because obviously they know each other, having worked with each other before. Only literally that was probably the last film they did before this, and I really, really appreciated that as well. But also it was just the fact that she was just she seemed so ditzy, and then when she gets
capable.
into action, it's like
Daniel Craig
super
did handpick her
capable
for this film,
and-
by the way. After working with her in Knives Out.
that's how she got the job.
Yeah. So,
So yeah, there we go. Right, let's move on. So we still kind of so Cuba, all the rest of it. So gadgets and vehicles. It's time for Gadget Guru. I haven't got your music lined up. Sorry.
Gadget
That's
Guru,
right.
do-do-do-do. Gadget Guru, do-do-do-do. Who is it? It's the Gadget Guru. Go, Gadget Guru, go.
I think you've got to record that and put it in. Just use that. That's all you need.
Or not. Anyway.
So-
take it away, Alex.
I love this because there was quite a lot to talk about, which
Yeah,
was
loads.
great for a new Bond film. I was just like, oh yeah, there's not going to be anything, and there was loads. I mean, I think the big one was the DB5. So there was so much happening on the DB5, and again, it was pretty much all of it was used. The bulletproof glass, the miniguns, the smoke screen, all of that was all in there. It was all practical. So that
Well,
was
Alex,
great.
they had four different Aston Martin vehicles in this film, didn't they?
Yeah, well, this is it. So that was the DB5, but there has to be an honourable mention for the V8.
The Cumberland
he
Grey
rocks
one.
up on.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
And then later on,
I was speaking to a client of mine today. I won't name him for obvious reasons, but he has that car.
The
He
85?
said Aston Martin have got a load of those in at the moment because of that film. That car's popularity and worth has gone through the roof. So you've now got anyone who owns one of those, whatever state it's in, spending a fortune having it restored so that they can realise the value of the car. And they're not necessarily selling them. I mean, some people, so like my client in question, the seat basically is electronically adjustable, and it basically suddenly had a life of its own, and it's moved itself so far forward he can't get into the car, and it needs a new
servo.
Driver seat servo, and they're completely out of stock. They can't get them, so it's basically been sat at Aston Martin for 5 months whilst they wait for this part to materialise. But that car is highly sought after at the moment, and I want one as well.
There's the DBS Super Leggera as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so the Super Leggera, and then we've also got the Valhalla as well.
Is that the one that's in the wind
One
tunnel?
of them,
Alex, in the lab, the hypercar.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think
never
so.
gets used,
Yeah,
does
because
it?
that was the one. No, I don't think it gets used, but the
amazing.
Valhalla does, because that's the one she picks him up in.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's I think this is the most Aston Martin heavy film by a long route. And I also thought that the use of Land Rovers for that chase in Norway was particularly good, because it was just like completely fitted in perfectly.
Bonkers.
Yeah, it was a really good thing. So yeah, it was great from a vehicle point of view. So that was good. Back to gadgets. We've got the Omega Seamaster with the EMP on it, which he uses to blow up the bionic eye, doesn't he? Right towards the end.
Daniel Craig actually helped design that, didn't he?
Yeah, did he?
Yeah,
Right.
he was part of the.
That.
He was involved in the design for this film, and there were two versions of it. There was like the NATO style strap edition, which was, I think you could buy for about $8,000, and then he had like an expensive one with a titanium mesh bracelet, which goes for about $9,000. But he's always won the Seamasters, and Bob, you've got one, haven't you? Come on, every so often we talk about these. Bobby has to show us his Seamaster again.
Yeah, I've got the Casino Royale, one of 10,007 Seamasters with the
Nice.
007 gun barrel
and
007 logo on the sweep hand.
No, it's good.
And if you write
we've got
comments on
that.
this podcast, this video, you can win that Seamaster from Bobby. Just write your comments below.
You can win a photograph of it. I'll print it and I'll sign it and I'll send it to you.
There you go.
Nice.
But not the watch.
Right, let me do more of my gadgets.
Sorry,
Come
mate.
on, this is my only bit. So obviously the bionic eyeball is a good one.
That's hilarious.
So
It blew his mind. I really love that.
Yeah, it's a good line.
that joke. That was very Roger
that was
Moore
funny.
as well.
It's just always that villain that's just using his eyes, isn't he? He's just really staring at you, and it's
Prima,
like,
it's
all
called,
right, we get it.
Prima,
He's got-
Prima, I think his name is, isn't it? It's his actual
I
name.
think so.
Yeah.
We've also got a few other things. So we've got the QDAR tracking device, which looks like a loaf of bread, and I thought that was quite good fun. Apparently, there's a little short of that. It was a sort of
Like a marketing video.
unused scene that they. Yeah, it's on IMDb. I just haven't seen it. But yeah, so apparently he has his own little scene that's credited, which is quite good fun. The other pieces he uses smart blood to say basically you're not running away like last time, and that leads you quite cleanly onto Heracles itself, where they're nanobots that cannot be killed, cannot be destroyed, and so yeah, that's a really clever spin on something that we just don't think about. We're like, oh yeah, smart blood, whatever, and then it's like, no, this is bad.
Alex, wouldn't an EMP device kill the smart bots though?
Well, yes, that would, and the EMP is used quite
His watch.
sparingly because his watch is able to get this eyeball, but doesn't affect any radio whatsoever, like his earpiece.
Yeah.
That I feel like is a little bit of a use there. They're just like, nah, it'll be fine. So that's the main big one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've missed. It's quite a heavy one,
But there's
really,
the
in terms of gadgets.
the submarine.
Yeah, and also don't. Yeah, that's it. That was the.
What's it
I
called?
can't remember what the name of it's called now. It is.
What's the name
I
for
can't
it?
find
It's like a sort
But
of
there's
it's kind of like a
the stealth drone that basically goes underwater.
yeah.
That was cool.
So yeah, that's right. I don't have the name for it, but yeah. So that was another one that cropped up. I was like, well, that's pretty good. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty heavy gadget thing. But what I was surprised
It's
at
called
is
the
that
folding
actually,
glider, I think it's called.
is that what they said?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the folding
submersible glider. That's
Yeah.
what they call it. Yeah. But I think the thing is that everything is part of the story, as it often is. But it didn't feel throwaway this time. It didn't feel like frivolous. And I think that was quite nice. Like, I think partly it's because it's such a big plot point of the Heracles nanobots. So I think that was an interesting one because that could have been really cheesy and could have we could have all been like, yeah, whatever, But
Did you all
it was
worry,
just menacing
Alex,
enough.
when the submersible was just pulling into that sort of the underwater port, that it would just glide through and then the tail fins would hit that metal bridge as it stopped? I'm worried about that.
It was very close.
It was very
like,
close.
Like an inch or
Almost
two.
perfectly
It was really,
close.
really
Yeah.
close. I feel like they probably cut it at just the right time.
Yeah.
And then we'll never know. Yeah, so that's all I have. But I do have a question for you, and this is something that I don't know for fact. But Saffin in his island layer that he's got, there's a scene where you see him and there's the reflected light of water in the background, and it's basically it's like one of his lounges or whatever it is, but very sparsely furnished, and it has like harsh brutalist
It's the Zen
concrete.
gardens. There's some Zen gardens in it as well
That's
inside. Yeah.
So not the not the outside, the Zen
inside
garden
one,
bit,
yeah.
but inside there's something that looks like that. Now, for me, that really triggered me because I was like, that looks like the scene in Blade Runner 2049.
Yes.
It like really does because there you've got the
You've got the same
there
sort of
you've
water
got
feature,
the-
haven't you? That he's still standing around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the same water feature, and that's where they talk obviously about the replicants. I can't remember what its name is now. The I can't remember who the protagonist is.
Oh, you mean Jared Leto's character?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, he's not. He's no relation to the original Tyrell. Is he another Tyrell? I can't remember.
No, he buys them out. I just can't remember his name.
I'll let you know.
Wallace.
Wallace.
That's
That's
his,
it, yeah.
Neander Wallace. Yeah.
Another
So,
armor film, by
but
the way.
the thing,
as well.
yes, oh
Yeah.
yes, yeah. That's why it triggered me.
Yeah.
But the thing that I was like, oh, I remember that. You see more of her in that one. But the thing that triggered me is I was like, that's the same set, and I can't find it anywhere whether it is the same set or not. It looks like it's a different. When I look at all of the filming locations, it doesn't match up because Blade Runner 2049 was filmed in Budapest and Hungary, whereas this was filmed in Pinewood and the UK. But it's really bugging me. So if anyone knows whether that is the same set or it's a different set that was meant to look like the other one, just send us a note, because I'm gonna do more research. But it was just something that I was like, oh, something about brutalist architecture I like. Anyway,
The only gadget I think you might have missed out that I remember, which I found quite kind of weird, was the fact that both Double O's use Nokia phones as their phones in this. So I think Nokia was the official partner of No Time to Die, and I think didn't they have a few issues where they had to refilm some scenes because by the time the film came out post-pandemic, the models they were showing were out of date, or Nokia wanted to have an upgraded version of them. So I think they had to refilm certain scenes for that bit. So I think that's quite funny because, like, is Nokia still around? Do they still make phones now?
Yeah, they do.
yeah, they were owned by HMD, a Chinese manufacturer.
Right.
I think they own the brand for it now.
I think they were the XR20s in the film.
They're not.
But I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Madeleine Swan uses a Nokia 3310 The phone can clearly be seen during the car chase in Italy in the Aston Martin DB.
Well, quite often you'll see
you-
Bond characters using the older Nokia phones because they're really good dumb phones or burner phones for agents to use that can't be tracked. So you do see them. So I presume Nokia got those in as well because they're the sponsor.
Yeah, Craig uses a Bond he uses a Nokia smartphone in the scene in Norway.
Yeah.
When Madeline is there, and now you mentioned it was reshot. That actually does shout being a reshot scene, so that would make sense.
Awesome.
Yeah. So good shout. Yeah.
I miss Nokia.
No outro. I feel like I need an outro for
Okay.
my catchy bit.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, and over to Bobby.
Well, I
Thank you
can I just
for
mention
that, Alex,
Bond's carnal transgressions in this film quickly, as is my want.
I was just about to introduce you.
Oh, sorry, carry on. Go on in. I don't need an intro.
No, it's fine. You're not going to get my intro song now. Go on, just do it.
Oh no, do the song.
Basically, right, okay, everyone, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, and anyone that's got young children listening to this, firstly, why? You're irresponsible.
Yeah.
But also,
Bad parents.
just
Bad
send them out
parents.
of the room now.
Okay.
This segment's just for mummy and daddy. It's called Who Gives a Fuck? Over to you, John Evans.
I mean, this was a tricky, wasn't it? Really, because it's a number of times with the same person, isn't it? Like he does it twice with Madeline in the film, but one of the times is very special.
Did we not say? Did we establish it was one it's how many people he boffs, or is it actually how many boffs?
I think it's how many boffs, but I think we can go for how many people. In this case, it's one, isn't it?
I think it's boffs,
Okay,
but
so then
in this
how many-
case it
how many
doesn't
boffs?
matter because
Well, you've got the boff.
Anna-
You've got the
Anna
boff in the
Roberto.
Italian place, isn't it? And then you've got the boff in the. Is it in Norway? Does he boff in Norway? I think he does in Norway.
yeah, he does.
No, he starts
He's
to.
not.
They start kissing.
Yeah.
But then Matilde is at the top of the
Oh
stairs. and
yeah,
interrupts them.
that's right.
That's right.
So
Well,
it is just one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's giving
But
a good
he
little
must
indication
have, though,
of
'cause
family
he-
life, there, isn't it? Really. Let's be honest.
And he wakes up in the morning as well, so
Yeah, I think he did.
reckon he would have. Yeah,
But I say-
okay,
I'd
but
say-
not on screen, so we can't count that.
But definitely in the hotel in Italy, and then before it all goes tits up. I mean, not literally. I mean, like narratively. And yeah, I think probably once in the reunion in Norway at some point. So there you go.
Because he hopes to boff the new 007 because he doesn't know who she is at that point.
Yeah.
And then and there's a flash of hope, maybe hoping that or thinking he's gonna do Paloma, but she just laughs that one off.
Well, I mean, I think you get that whole "you're an old man, I'm a young lady" vibe from that, don't you? From that scene, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, she actually
yeah,
says
very
it,
much.
doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does. Yeah,
Yeah.
she just says, "Oh no, no." No.
Okay, there you go. So
yeah.
it's funny because looking back over the Boncometers from the beginning to now, John's segments have got shorter and shorter as the Daniel Craig era has gone on.
I have done a count in total though, from Doctor No up to today, and it is quite tricky, especially with our rule of whether it's the same person or not. But it's roughly around 55.
Wow.
It's not many, is it?
It's not as many as you think, is it? No, that's not. But then that's like an average of 2 points on
But
the
then,
film.
where is it more weighted? Is it more weighted to Connery and Brosnan?
Well, I
Or
think
Roger Moore and
more.
Brosnan?
But I mean, Doctor No, there was 3. I mean, this could
There's
take.
a lot in Roger Moore, isn't there?
Yeah, and this is Connery. Connery's his rough average is about 3. Yeah, it's mostly 3. And then if we look at, I mean, obviously we've got George. How many did George have? Just 1. And then if we go down to like Live and Let Die and so on, we got pretty much their 3 there. I think basically what happened was Craig ruined the average curve more than anything else by the looks of it. It's mostly
Right.
3 in the early films, and then they dropped to 2. Yeah, View to a Kill. You got Mayday. You got Polly Ivanova and Stacey Sutton. That's another 3. Dalton was 2, so Dalton's my man after Craig's heart by the looks of it, really. You know,
It's the Welsh thing, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, Tomorrow Never Dies. Brosnan
tired
brought the
from
average back
second
up to
sheet.
3 again with Ingeberg, Strong, Paris Carver, and Wylin. So you know, and The World Are Not Enough. Dr. Molly Warmflash, Electra King, and Dr. Christmas Jones. The infamous Christmas Comes But Once a Year. So yeah, I think Craig has brought the curve down with his more sensitive, serious aspects of his role. So there you go.
The thing is, I always wanted to spend Turkey in Christmas.
That's
It's like
it.
the last line
Yep.
of the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never forget that. Okay.
My wife hates this
Easter
part of the
eggs.
podcast, by the way, folks. She hates it, so I really apologise.
Yeah. So do I, Becca. I'm with you.
We didn't do a nipple count. Like I feel
for
like
fuck.
Yes,
if
but
you'd
then
have done
Scaramanga
that-
causes problems, doesn't he? We can't.
he does.
Yeah.
We do. Well, we get Craig's, so we're all
I
right.
think it's 2, Alex,
Let's
total.
let's talk about something. Talk about something nicer. Let's talk about Easter eggs. Everybody loves Easter eggs.
All right.
These are Bond chocolatey Easter eggs. No Time to Die sees Daniel Craig bid farewell to James Bond in a hail of bullets and missiles, bloodshed, and Easter eggs. And here are just some of the ones that I found. So the gun barrel sequence, first of all, no blood.
Yeah.
First hint that he misses. In true James Bond tradition, No Time to Die finally begins with the classic gun barrel sequence, but Daniel Craig's Bond turns and shoots towards the audience as usual, but where there would normally be a shower of blood rolling down the screen, that familiar trail of red is conspicuous by its absence. Sorry, it's really late on a Monday night, Tuesday night. This sequence has been in place since 1962's Doctor No, and the lack of blood is very, very strange, especially in the ultra-violent modern era. But the meaning becomes clear 2.5 hours later when James Bond realises he does have time to die after all.
Did you notice, Bobby,
blood-free opening
in that
is
sequence?
an early sign that 007 is not going to win this fight.
Bobby soldering on here. Did you notice in the gun barrel sequence though that there's a little, just in the barrel, there's a little double helix when you look at it again, which is I think a reference to the DNA virus in the movie. So go back and look at that. There's a little double helix. It's quite clever.
Cool. Mr. White's Spectre ring, in the introductory flashback where we find a young Madeline running away from Saffin, who has come to slaughter her father, Mr. White. She tries hiding in his safe room. The camera glides over a stack of passports and there is a Spectre ring sitting on top of it. The octopus branded ring is worn by all Blofeld employees, both in the classic Bond movies and in the modern day ones with Daniel Craig, the last two actually, because of movie rights. So there we go. The Aston Martin DB5 we've already talked about returns in all its glory in No Time to Die, as Bond and Swan are cruising through the beautiful mountains of Matera in Italy. The iconic vehicle made its debut in 1964's Goldfinger and has made various cameos throughout the series. Daniel Craig's incarnation of 007 won himself the DB5 in Casino Royale without the classic license plate before finally getting the proper Connery one in Skyfall. All the Time in the World, honouring George Lazenby. We hear references to that famous moment from George Lazenby's solo outing as 007 in On Her Majesty's Secret Service in Matera. We heard it in On Her Majesty's where Bond cradles his deceased wife's body. Boo-hoo, Diana Rick, we love you. And the line, he says the line to Madeline, and he repeats the line again, but this time he says, "You have all the time in the world," just before he dies, and he says farewell to her. What else? Bond at Vesper Lynd's grave. This mirrors the sequence in Roger Moore's For Your Eyes Only, where at the beginning he pays a rare visit to the grave of Tracy Bond, and also following the For Your Eyes Only formula, Bond falls victim to a graveside ambush. He is never permitted even a moment's peace in these movies, especially when grieving for a dead wife or lover.
Or Bond.
Vesper Lynd's Casino Royale theme is used in No Time to Die during the graveyard scene. Vesper's theme plays there, composed by David Arnold. And what was the next one? No Time to Die's title sequence has images from Doctor No, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and Thunderball. By the way, it was a great title sequence as well.
It was. Billie Eilish won an Oscar
Yeah,
for that
really
song
good.
in this film.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Don't spoil it. The new titles included coloured dots in tribute to Doctor No and a diver very reminiscent of Thunderball's opening. The 1969 opening of On Her Majesty's Secret Service featured a Union Jack, hourglasses, clock faces, and a statue grasping trident, and all of those elements were in the title sequence to this film. The hazmat suits look like the ones in Doctor No. So they're identical, or nearly identical, to the clothing worn by Doctor No's scientist henchman in the 1962 film. The red suits also take inspiration from Doctor No's followers. Felix's Delectado cigar is the same as the one smoked by Pierce Brosnan in Die Another Day.
That's when the place gets chainsawed in half, isn't it? That scene. Is that right? With the chainsaw on the
Die
helicopter.
Another Day.
Yeah.
Die Another Day.
I got that wrong then.
Yeah.
With Halle Berry.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what do they do at night? They feast. Remember that little line of amazing dialogue? James Bond's drawer contains Dr. No and Spectre Easter eggs. Opening a secret drawer, Bond has a few choice mementos that he's kept during retirement. These can be seen at his home when he's living a solitary life in Jamaica. There are newspaper clippings reporting the arrest of Ernst Stavro Blofeld, calling back to when he clashed against Blofeld in Spectre. There is a shell inside, which is a brilliant Dr. No Easter egg. During Sean Connery's own time in Jamaica, he met Honey Rider while she was diving for shells on the beach. And continuing the gag, Nomi introduces herself as a diver in a later scene. Daniel Craig refers to himself as Commander Bond during his first meeting with Nomi. The new 007 is asked to refer to her predecessor as Commander Bond. Bond's pre-MI6 military rank has always been part of his character, but the title remained understated while he worked as a 00. Now he's in retirement. Commander Bond becomes more prominent, at least until the final act.
Bobby, to interrupt you there on the Commander bit, were you aware that about 5 days before the reveal of the filming or the premiere of the film, Daniel Craig was given an honorary commander title by the real British military?
Nice.
The British Royal Navy. Yeah, it was for the premiere, actually. And it was basically to reflect his personal support for Her Majesty's Armed Forces. So they actually made Daniel Craig an honorary commander of the British Navy just before this film was released,
cool.
which I think is really cool.
Yeah, which they should withdraw it now that he dresses like a flipping mad
I've seen those.
artist.
What is that about? What is that about? It's ruined everything.
Yeah, I know. Loewe signed him up, and he's now their brand ambassador, and he looks awful.
He looks like the towel rail in your bathroom, doesn't he? Now, unfortunately.
Yeah, basically, it's a human towel. The code fail in No Time to Die when Paloma meets Bond and he approaches her with a password, which is something about a hat in Paris.
Yeah.
But she brushes off his security protocol, which copies another CIA character's lax approach to security protocols, Jack Wade in GoldenEye. When Wade meets Pierce Brosnan's 007 in 1995, he dismissed Bond's security codes as the hallmarks of a stiff-assed Brit.
Was that the guy with the small car, the little car?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Comically
he's
small.
a great character.
Jack Wade.
He was good.
Daniel Craig's James Bond hasn't always been as fussy about his drink order as other incarnations. See Casino Royale. During No Time to Die's Cuba sequence, the retired agent orders his martini the traditional Bond way. I also loved the way he and Paloma, it's like, have a drink before they start fighting, and then a bit later on...
He knocked another back.
He knocks another one back, it was so cool. Dr. Vogel, one of Blofeld's allies and a figure at his villainous table, she returns and reprises her role briefly until she gets killed off. And among the guests, I don't know if you spotted him, but Michael G. Wilson makes a cameo. He's one of the guests in the Cuban Spectre party.
There's a lot of them there, aren't there? It's cool.
Yeah. Paloma's 1957 Chevrolet that she crashes into the scaffolding to get hold of Valdo Obrachev is a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. Previously appeared in Doctor No, driven by Spectre assassin Mr. Jones. That's the one where Sean Connery. There's that sort of car chase, and then Connery. Can't remember. It's something to do with his cane or something. But anyway, that's the same car.
Nice.
Line repeated from The Spy Who Loved Me. Before Felix dies, James Bond utters, "We've really got to stop meeting like this." Roger Moore's Bond used the same line on Anya Amasova, Agent XXX, in The Spy Who Loved Me, although their relationship was a little bit different, and the circumstances, although the circumstances of being in peril were similar. No Time to Die's life raft echoes You Only Live Twice after watching Felix's uncanny impression of Jack from Titanic. Sorry. James Bond locates an inflatable yellow life raft. The rescue boat is extremely similar to the one in You Only Live Twice, in which Sean Connery's Bond and Kissy Suzuki end the film making love, as John will know from his Bondathon examinations and homework, on their own yellow blow-up raft. No luck for Daniel Craig's 007, who is left to mourn Felix's death all by himself. The Aston Martin V8, which 007 dusts off in this movie, has been waiting patiently in a garage since 1987. Timothy Dalton drove this car in the living daylights. Although the model is slightly different, the matching license plates confirm these cars are the same as far as James Bond's evolution in canon is concerned. Judi Dench's M Bulldog gift to 007 from Skyfall is also gathering dust in James Bond's garage, the very same one that we see on M's desk in Skyfall. This intentionally tacky ornament is passed to 007 after Judi Dench dies, and has apparently been guarding the V8 ever since. Towards the front of the garage, you can also spot a set of skis, which is a reference to 007's snow-related shenanigans in past movies, most of them the Roger Moore films, with a couple of Brosnans. I think that's probably enough.
There's one more. So Grace Jones was asked to cameo in this film, but refused when she realised it's such a small part. But there's a scene I remember seeing it. There's a scene where Nomi is driving with the sunlight behind her, and she's wearing the same rectangular glasses that Grace Jones wore in their Bond film. It's a little nod to Grace Jones there as well, which is really subtle, but I like that as well. Because I thought Grace Jones was a really interesting Bond girl.
I'm sure there were more, but time's getting on. But anyone who's still listening at this point, again, congratulations. Still no one's claiming these prizes. But if you have spotted any Easter eggs or references to previous Bond movies, then please do write in or jump in the comments and let us know. Another one just to mention actually was the Logan Ash death, the dodgy CIA agent. That was a copy of Roger Moore's killing of a bad guy in For Your Eyes Only, where he kicks the car off the cliff. So they did put a lot of little references. And then when he's in the final sequence, when he walks through the tunnel and someone shoots at him and he turns around and echoes the gun barrel sequence. So that kind of acts like a second gun barrel sequence. And he just looks really freaking cool in that outfit as well. Which leads me neatly on to the clothes. John, you must have a wish list from this movie.
Well, I love
what your heart desires.
The suits are all very nice, but I did like his. We talked about this before in one of the Bondathons, but I did like his navy jumper outfit, and when he's attacking the final lair, the island lair. That outfit was really cool, like a kind of man ready for action, but still looking pretty cool. So and again, I imagine his jumper was hideously expensive.
It's an N Peel.
That's right. Yeah, we talked about this before. I think we referred to this because
we have. Yeah, you actually. Yeah. You found it for me.
Yeah, I remember sending you a link to it, actually. Did you ever get one?
No, but I think Carolina, I caught her on their website, and I've got a feeling I might have some Christmas presents coming.
Well, that sounds good.
Nice.
It's cashmere, wasn't it? It's ribbed army sweater, navy sweater. I like it a lot. I'm not sure how often I can wear it in public, but it was pretty cool. Yeah, MPL, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm on their website now. It's only £380 at the moment. That's a bargain.
Yeah. Well, he was clothed by Tom Ford again. I mean, the tuxedo he wears, which looks pretty cool, is a shawl lapel again, but that's a Tom Ford Atticus dinner jacket and trouser. Anna de Armas's dress, which was absolutely beautiful. It's a silk satin gown. It's a Michael Lasordo Alexandra silk satin gown.
Apparently they chose that, Bobby. Beautiful. They chose that dress for her because it was a good balance of elegance, but also gave her room to move and do all the action sequences. So there was a practical side to it as well.
You could see that when she was kicking the shit out of people.
Yeah.
I also love that move she made where she took 3 of them out in one go.
Sort of kicking them with the heel.
Yeah. So cool. And then he's got some really cool footwear in this as well, because in that first sequence in Italy, he's wearing very similar chukka boots to the ones that Steve McQueen always used to like to wear. That very sort of bullet-esque kind of look. I've just had our factory make me a pair of those, actually, FYI. I'm getting them to copy the Derby shoes that he wears when he's wearing a suit in the film.
The Becca's favourite outfit he wore was his fishing outfit, where he comes off the boat in his hot pants. Just so you know.
I wonder why.
I mean,
Fair
he
enough.
wore quite a lot of beige in this film again, didn't he? I liked his
did.
the Matera, the suit he wore in Matera, which is quite cool. Which I don't know what it was, but it was very nice. And I quite liked his. Is he had another kind of wax jacket, like a trucker jacket he wore is it in the beginning of the film? That was quite good. I quite like that as well. I had a wax jacket which the zip went on it, so I'm looking for a new one. I think it's called the Rogue Territory Supply Jacket. That one. The website says Rogue Territory. Have you heard of Rogue Territory, Bobby? That one.
That wax jacket?
Yeah, the Rogue Territory Supply Jacket. It's a tan Ridgeline edition. Looks very nice. Rogue Territory. $300. So, you know, I mean, they're not unaffordable. They're pretty cool. And I think you can get like alternatives that look a bit like it. Like there's people who wear alternative outfits in the Star Wars theme park to get away with being cosplay without cosplay. If you know what I mean? But yeah, there's some good stuff in here. He just oozes style in every scene. He's so well dressed in this film.
Yeah, he looked really, really good in this one.
Yeah.
Like, really, really good. I need to just find those combat trousers as well. I think they were end peel as well. And then the white top, the Henley top.
Oh, the one he wears on the boat?
Bone. The one he wears in the final sequence.
Oh,
and, yeah, I guess on the boat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, end peel 007 combat trousers. They're really cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can recreate those. I know they've got some details on them that are quite unique. So, to recreate that outfit, I need 245 quid for the trousers, 379 for the sweater.
The braces are 50 quid, mate.
Yeah, it's fine. That's all right. And then the Henley sweater thing, and then I also need to lose some fucking weight.
You and me both. Go to the gym for a bit.
Yeah.
Right, music. I love Billie Eilish. I think I've said this before. I'm a massive fan of her music, and obviously her brother as well, because they co-write most of their stuff together. Her theme song won the Academy Award for Best Original Song, and Hans
Won a
Zimmer
Grammy as well.
scored the film, as I mentioned before. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It is brilliant. I mean, you know, again, it's very somber. It's very haunting. It's a beautiful song. It's not one that I do listen to when I'm in the car because I need the faster ones for that.
Sorry, fact check. He didn't win a Grammy.
Arrives.
Sorry, he won a Golden Globe, but
okay.
Hans Zimmer's soundtrack was nominated for a Grammy. So,
Yeah.
That's good.
Alex, where does No Time to Die, as in the song, rank for you amongst the great Bond themes?
It's funny. I mean, I think in the modern set, it's pretty high. I think it works well against the Sam Smith one, doesn't it? So yeah, I think it's pretty high. It's not quite as memorable as some of the classics, and I think that's the only downside. But it's just something about it. It's just modern, and then not in a like Madonna Die Another Day sort of way. It seems like it's modern, but it doesn't seem aging, and I feel like it will stay that
Alex,
way.
I don't think it's fair to compare these more modern songs to the old classics. Really, they're almost a separate genre, aren't they?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, completely. But I mean, it's pretty high. Is this one?
At the age of 18, she's the youngest artist to record a Bond theme song. I mean, think about it.
Wow.
18 years old, and by this time, 2 years before, she'd already released "When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go?" her first album.
Yeah.
Which is from start to finish perfect. It's a perfect album for me. Absolutely incredible. Her and her brother, they're just an incredible team, really. And she's such a talent. I'm so glad we just, we'll hopefully get to enjoy her talent and her gift for many, many years to come. But wow, I mean, what a song to perform and write at such a young age. Apparently, I saw an interview or read an interview with her a while ago where she talked about when they were approached to do the song, and she was basically petrified. But you listen to the words and you listen to the music and the way that they really respect Bond themes of the past as well. I mean, geez, how it's just crazy. Just someone that at such a young age, so much talent and maturity as well. Wow. So yeah, I mean, for those reasons, I'm talking myself into this being one of my favourite Bond songs of all time.
Interesting.
Sounds really good on a HomePod as well. It's turned up to loud.
Nice.
It's quite bassy, isn't it? It's quite bassy.
I'm thinking, because Carolina's taken my Beats Studio Pro, and I'm thinking about getting the USB-C AirPods Max because I've got to stay in the Apple ecosystem, innit?
Bobby, we've got to work on this.
You know the thing I like about the AirPods Max, just to segue, is the fact for us baldies, it's really hard to find headphones that don't make you look like Dengar from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
They sit close to your head, whereas other headphones do that, and you look like a weirdo.
Especially the Pulse Elites. I look really weird in the old Sony PlayStation Pulse Elites.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. No.
Right, we've got to wrap this
separation.
up because we've been going for quite some. This is like literally the longest. There'll be no time to sleep at this rate. Alex, do we have some numbers? Do we know how well this song did? This film did.
The song, no.
The film.
The film, yes. It actually went pretty well. It grossed worldwide total of 774 million. And that was off a budget, including promotion, of about 350 million. So it was pretty good.
Wow.
It's estimated it would have needed to gross 800 million worldwide to break even. Now, the fact that this was literally timed over COVID, and then they pushed it back and pushed it back and pushed it back, I think it actually did incredibly well considering that. And it did kickstart the industry again. So I think in that respect, I think it was a very impressive showing.
It's the longest Bond film
if
as
it
well.
didn't hit the same numbers.
It's the longest Bond film by about 30 minutes. So, that's going to cost as well, isn't it? But it must make lots. It must be making money after the streaming sales and the sales of the on-demand video as well. Surely.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is it. It's this as obviously is most modern. It is one that just plays now just as well as it did 3 years ago. So I think that holds itself up. It'll be interesting to see what happens because MGM's now owned by Amazon, and so there's been a number of moving things around, and so it's on Prime at the moment. But I do feel like it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because at the moment it's the kind of thing that if it was in another studio or if it was on its own, I think we would have seen this all over Netflix. And to get lots and lots of at Christmas or something, and I just haven't seen that. So I think it's suffered from.
I'm starting to regret I didn't go and see it in IMAX because this was the first Bond film to be filmed with an IMAX camera as well.
We saw it.
It's good.
We watch all of our films that are Odeon, IMAX, and Swiss Cottage.
So I think the BFI will probably show it again at some point. So I'd like to go and see it again in the IMAX. I think.
Yeah, it's worth seeing in IMAX. I just wish they would have the IMAX presentation on Prime because they don't at the moment.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that
yeah,
Disney does really well, isn't it? Because all the the Disney content, they show the IMAX versions, and they look really good on a TV that can fit it. So
yeah, exactly. It's like on an OLED, it looks stunning. Sorry,
it does. I was just about to say on an OLED, and also
it does
the
look amazing.
sound. I mean, last night, just because we've got the Samsung Dolby Atmos system, so the physical speakers, but then it also then has got that Q Symphony feature where it combines the 15, 16 odd speakers that the TV's got buried in the back of it with your physical speakers to create an all-round system. And honestly, the sound is amazing. If you shut your eyes, you think you were in the BFI or somewhere like that. So cool. It's just brilliant.
We'll come round to yours for a movie night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had friends over and they've been so interested in it, and so I've been running Dolby Atmos demos on YouTube. And you really, when you're watching movies and TV shows that are support Dolby Atmos, the separation is incredible. Really, you get 3 characters on screen, and her voice will come from here, and his will come from the middle, and that will come from there. And if there's a helicopter whizzing round, it literally moves around the room. Or if there's rain overhead, I remember the first thing we watched on that TV was what was the Zack Snyder Rebel Moon?
Rebel Moon,
on Netflix, which is terrible, but as a visual. To test an OLED TV
I might have to watch
and a
that
Dolby
again.
Atmos setup.
I'll have to try that again then.
Watch that
Snyder
film.
cut now.
Watch that film on an OLED with Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, okay, that's a job to do.
When there's a scene where it's raining and the 2 characters are looking at each other across a courtyard.
Yeah.
And it's raining heavy.
That's the flashback
we looked
sequence.
at each other, having just moved into a new house. We looked at each other, panicked for a second because we thought there was a leak.
Yeah.
We thought it was raining in the living room. It was absolutely amazing. Anyway, right on to. So for a post-pandemic film, it didn't do too badly.
Well, you say that, Bobby. It is the first Bond film. It's the only film to have been responsible for the closure of 160 cinemas when it delayed its release. It's the only film in history to close 160 cinemas due to its delayed release caused by the it wasn't just the film; it was the pandemic. So it's a sort of a bittersweet victory for the film, really, when you think about these sort of independent cinemas.
I mean, I think it was impressive in that it didn't just go to streaming.
Yeah.
I think if it had gone to streaming, and others did,
Well,
other
I think
films did.
the big hoo-ha that Nolan had with I think was it Tenet. He was upset about Tenet going straight to streaming.
Tenet,
Yeah.
Tenet was worth seeing in the cinema.
It was. I saw it in the cinema. That was the first film I saw going
anyway,
back before Bond, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going off topic. We
We
haven't even given our scores yet.
No, you're right. But over to you, Bobby. Or Bobby.
No, over to... Who should we go first today? Let's go John first of all, because I know Alex is going to give it a 10 or something.
No, I'm going to give it a 10, Bobby.
What?
John?
10.
Oh, Jesus.
It's the only film that...
John...
There are certain films, Bobby, that guarantee to make me cry, and one of them is that Björk film that she made with Tom York, which is a torture to watch. I can't remember what it's called now. I'll look it up at some point. And this guarantees that I will always, hold, even if I have to hold it back, and the horrible pain of crying back when I watch this. And it's because we love Bond so much, isn't it? This is the problem. This and When M Dies are guaranteed to get me to blub a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. And also the soundtrack's excellent. The song, I love the Billie Eilish song. I think the story's so good, and it's a finisher. It's the Bond that finishes it all off. We're going to speculate about the next Bond, but this is a proper bookmark. In before. It's a 10. It's a perfect 10 for me.
Cool. Alex?
What he said. There you go, done.
It's a perfect 10.
No, so I am going to give it a 10 as well. I've worked really hard to not score things above and below, just so you couldn't. But this one is a 10. I think there are funnier films. I think there are sort of more enjoyable Bond films, but I just don't think there's a Bond film that makes you cry at the end and leaves you with such a feeling of closure that this one does. And I can't fault it. So yeah, so it's going to be a 10. There's no other score for it.
Has someone put averages into the spreadsheet?
I did, yes.
No, I didn't put
averages. I did.
Oh, there we go. Spot the teacher.
You freaky geek.
Yeah, definitely spot the teacher in the group here.
Yeah.
Next, you're going to want a CSV download of it, or put it in a chart.
I'm looking at the averages too, Bobby, but I'm not sure if I've got the same shared sheet as you, or if I've got a standalone version. But I can see at the moment the person who's given the highest average is Alex.
Yeah. Right now.
Have you just put those
10?
You just put those 10s in, have you?
Go on, Bobby.
Yeah, I've got the shared document. This is very exciting. I'm seeing these scores come up live. So I don't know what Bobby's put in yet. He's holding back putting his score in right now, I can see.
I'm giving it a 9.5, so which I'm kind of quite surprised by. But when looking back, the reason it's so high, it's got one of my favourite ever Bond set pieces, which is the stairwell fight, the one-shot take where he goes up there, because we finally see... After however many years, however many films, we see 007 at his best, which is the trained killer that he is. He's absolutely ruthless. And also props to Daniel Craig, because he was kind of against doing those long takes, but the director really encouraged him, and he trained so hard to make those work, because at the end of the day, whatever the stories about him not wanting to play the character or whatever, I believe he's given his all to this role, and it was all there on screen for us to see. It also got a bump up because of the Cuba sequence, which was brilliant, not just because of Ana de Armas, but mostly because of her. But also just, I think the three of them, the way they worked together with the supporting players, it was just such a fun sequence to watch. And I just think, again, it just played out so well. It was so enjoyable, and it's a clip that I'll always want to watch. I'll never get tired of watching it. And also for the cast, I think the cast in this film, I can't fault any of them. They just brang it, every single one. Even Rami Malek, and he's had so much stick for that character. I don't think it was a bad character anyway, but whatever, it wasn't his fault. And I thought he did a really good job, because he really got under your skin. But at the same time, you understood his motivations, and those always make the best villains for me. Again, we've talked about this before. You go back to Thanos in the Avengers, and Thanos is a sympathetic villain because his reasons for doing what he does are perfectly freaking plausible. Well, to me they are anyway. It's my Tory coming out. So I'm not really. Don't cancel me. So 9.5.
You're part of the 50%.
Where did the 0.5 go then, Bobby? Why did you not give it a 10?
Well, because it made me cry like 3 times.
That's why I gave it a 10 for that emotional, that catharsis. That's why I gave Skyfall a 10. That's why I gave Moonraker a 10. Moonraker made me cry with joy when it was place.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
I can't give it a 10.
We've not given any 10s, Bobby.
Because I can't. Because I'm Craig Revel Hallwood.
The well-dressed camp one.
Craig Revel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
7.
I've given a lot of 7s though.
Yeah.
But I think I need to
mate.
revise some. I need to revise some of my ratings again.
Well, I think we talked about this before on the other podcast. So apology, listeners, if you're getting bored of this. But I haven't rated. I think because I didn't go on those podcasts, but I haven't rated Goldfinger and Doctor No. So I had homework before our big catch-up podcast. Maybe I need to watch both of those and give them a rating. I'll whack them on the spreadsheet because at the moment I have got the lowest rating. I thought I was being well generous in my ratings, but I've got the lowest. I'm the most critical Bond viewer out of the three of us, which seems weird. Considering I've given 3 10s and you've given none. I reckon my maths is wrong somewhere.
Surprising,
personally.
really. Yeah,
I need to go back and check this.
That sounds fishy.
Listeners, before we do our final podcast, I'll go back and I'll accurately check this.
Our New Year podcast or Christmas podcast.
Fine. Do you know what? I'll give a 10 to From Russia with Love.
All right.
What?
Okay.
With Russia with Love?
No, From Russia with Love. Not with Russia with Love.
Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. But...
There you go. Because I keep banging on about it as being like the best Bond film ever. So I'll give that a 10. There you go. Happy?
No,
I've given something
really.
a 10.
I feel a bit hollow now. I feel like you've let this film down.
No, what? Because I didn't give the same.
Because you didn't give it a 10.
Because I didn't give it a 10. But so what?
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been a full marks. It could have been a.
I'm
the board,
impressed.
but no.
And amazed that I've given a George Lazenby film a 9. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I gave it a 7. I kind of stand by that.
I think we should delve more into this in a separate podcast, Bobby. Before
we should. I think that's another podcast.
What we will do is we will do a retrospective look back at the Bondathon.
Yeah.
And our time, and we will give the James Bond series an overall rating. How about that?
We could get LaShawn Lynch on as a guest as well to talk about it with us, couldn't we? How about that?
Great.
Yeah.
I'll
Bobby,
look forward to that.
you pull your connections, Bobby. Yeah.
I could try and see if my new friend Freema Agyeman will join us. We'll look at John's eyes.
Can't believe you'd name dropped.
Yeah, well, we have our little chat.
Okay. All right.
So I'll see what we can do.
Let's look forward to those.
I'm not going to subject her to you two. But anyway, there we go. I know. Ida would probably be
interested.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So there we go. That was it. That's the end of the Bondathon. Sadly, we will be back though. We will do a retrospective.
Bondathon will return,
and then the Bondathon will return. We will need to work out and decide what our next film series is going to be. We could do
Mission Impossible.
Because the possible rumoured final Mission Impossible is due out next summer. So
it's the final one. He's not doing any more after this. He's too old.
We could go for Mission Impossible. Because that could tie up quite nicely timing-wise as well. I'm quite up for that because I really love those films.
Yeah, I do as well.
And so we're going to do Mission Impossible from January.
And if our listeners want to watch them, I think they're all on Prime at the moment as well. The Mission Impossible films, aren't they? I think.
Or Paramount.
Well, might be Paramount.
If we get on
Paramount Plus.
If we get onto it now, then we might be ready for the Final Reckoning, which comes out in May 2025. So. Better get onto it.
Yeah,
I think we're going to be a little bit behind, but let's see how quickly we can do it.
Yeah, let's try and time it out
and
see if we can tie in quite nicely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Have you had fun?
Always.
Good.
Totally.
Thank you both. No, seriously, because you guys, this wouldn't be what it is without you. Which, kind of a double-edged comment there. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, this definitely wouldn't be what it is without our regular listeners. Remember to give us a like, subscribe, review us, depending on where you're watching or listening to this. Tailoring Talk Magazine, we've restarted back up, so we are going to be doing some Tailoring Thoughts episodes. We are going to try and get the three of us together again to talk about some gadget stuff, because there's been a lot going on in the tech world recently. that has not passed us by. We just haven't talked about it in front of you lot. We will be back in the new year with a Mission Impossible Bondathon. I don't know. I need to come up with a name for that. But also, we hope you've all had a fabulous 2024. We wish you all the best for 2025, and what's left to do. But wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
We'll be back.
They look confused because we're recording this in November, but this is going to
Don't
go
spoil
out
the magic, Bobby.
in December. Well, I mean, by now it's end of December, so they'll
say that.
Yeah, we're time traveling here, guys. See, back and forth in the Tailoring Talk time machine. I didn't mention that at the beginning, did I? But there we go. Right, let's get off this call.
All right, bye.
Thank you all so much, and we will see you on the next one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
We're the 00 to your 7, Bobby.
Sweet.
Yeah, well, you're sort of like my Moneypenny and my Tanner.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. No, not Moneypenny. Who else is in MI5 that's a bit shit? So there's Tanner.
What?
One of the assistants in Q's labs.
Okay, I'm like blowing things up by mistake, am I? Right, that's about right, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Alex is the guy that washes my Aston Martin. I'm not 007 though. I'm not 007. So do you know what I say to people now when I'm trying to approach them to get, introduce my services?
Is it riff with your inside leg measurement? 003?
No. I say to them, you're 007. Can I be your Q?
Oh. And then when they get a bit
like that?
When they get a bit funny about your clothes, you just say, "Don't touch that, Bond."
Actually, I do. When they try to do the bottom button up on a waistcoat or on a 2-button jacket, I go, "Don't touch that." That's my lunch.
Never do up your bottom
I say
button.
chocolate buttons.
Yeah.
Never do up your bottom button.
No. Watch Bobby's shorts about that.
Yeah.
I mean, not his shorts that he wears, his YouTube and Instagram shorts. You know what I mean?
I don't wish.
The common vernacular for these videos. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Go on, it's time we should go before
I'll see.
we bore
I'll
people
see
to
if I
death.
get any. If I get any NPL goodies, I'll see if I can wear them. If I get them in time for the Bondathon retrospective, I'll wear them for that.
I think we might have to put our tuxes on for this, don't you think?
I think John should whip on a pair of All-the-Bar brown budgie smugglers from Casino Royale, and Alex should wear the
Halle Berry's bikini. Halle Berry's bikini.
Halle Berry's the bright orange one.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We get another viewing of the butt then, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that's true. You're going to get the butt out again.
You know the worst thing about these outros, these sort of
Is this shit?
extras or whatever? Nobody in the universe is ever going to listen
No,
to.
true. It's
You're
so
still
funny.
recording, Bobby. Why do you do this to us? I don't know. Anyway, switch it off.
Time to go to bed.
Come on, let's
Right,
get
I'm switching
drink.
it off.
Or go to bed.